Modeling functions with regression continued. Difficult level at grade created by the EPSD engineering math team. So again, we're going to work with the nspire. We can also do that in Desmos, but let's concentrate on the nspire. Here we'll further explore the different types of regressions after having experienced linear, exponential, and quadratic regression in the previous lesson. You will carefully study the information provided you to cautiously choose function family for the basis of the type of regression you're modeling. Modeling functions with regression continued. Once you understand how to do linear regression with a calculator, you already know the technical mechanics of how to perform that statistical calculation. The most common regressions correspond to the function families. Here they are. Let's take a moment and pause and look at that. Okay, so on the calculator, that would be, you go home, we want to do a new document, we don't want to save our old work, do our own. We're going to do a list in a spreadsheet again. And we have to decide on these types: quadratic, which is x squared; cubic, which is x cubed; quadric, which is x to the fourth. Those are the polynomial regressions. Then the logarithmic expressions and their inverse is natural log function for growth and decay problems, exponential regression for growth and decay, power regression, which is the sum of powers, and logistic, which is a dampened exponential, and sinusoidal, which is like the function carnival where we had the Ferris wheel, if you remember. Here are some tips to perform regressions that you have to, it's incredibly important to interpret and explain parts of the graph. Here are some points to keep in mind. Number one, the y-intercept has a particular meaning or may not be reasonable. Number two, when you use the model to predict, it's important to remember the relevant domain of the model. If it's elementary school children and they're talking about their ages, then elementary school children range from what, 5 to 13? The middle school is from 13 to 15 or so, 12 to 15, and then high school is from somewhere between 14 to 21, right? So the data for one set may not apply for the other set. So you have to be careful about your data, choice of your domain and range, where you're going to make predictions based on your model. Okay, number three, the calculator may produce a correlation coefficient, each of these for nonlinear regressions, but you should be very careful. Technically, the correlation coefficient is only supposed to be calculated for linear regressions, and so the calculator is doing some fancy linearization to produce it, and this process, there's whole books on it, and that would be a future statistics course for you. In general, at this point, you should use your best judgment when choosing a function family to model the set of data and decide which is a good fit based on the context. Let's take the following SAT scores. So here's our first. Let's take a moment to type these in. First, let's define the variables. Hours, go to the G, by the G is the underscore. Slept, S-L-E-P-T, tab. And next variable is SAT score. So SAT underscore score, or is it scores? Score. And so there it is. Now move down to that first tab. Let's type 8.5, 10.9, 9.1, 7.5, 7.2, 6.0, and 2.3 and 5.5. Then move your cursor up and over. And let's start with this, which is not seen if I do that. So I need to scooch my table over just a little bit there. And 1840, 1510, 1900, 2070, 1550, 1720, 840, and 1230. Make sure that the lists are the same size, otherwise the other steps are not going to work. Okay, here's the question. Which regression should I run? Before I do that, though, I'll need to insert a scatter plot. So again, insert choice 7, data and statistics. I'm going to display the data by clicking on the x-axis and choosing the hours slept. I will go over to Well, this one won't do it. I guess I have to go like this, click here, SAT score, there it is. So it looks like my hours, as my hours increase, so does my score. But if I sleep too much, then my scores are going to go down. So what kind of function goes increases and then decreases? Linear, quadratic, or exponential? Class? Linear, quadratic, or exponential increases then decreases? Quadratic. So I'm going to go to the menu. I'm going to analyze this. And I'm going to I'm going to do the regression and show the quadratic, which is choice 4. And there it is. There's my quadratic. I can move this out of the way. And I see that's negative 27, 460, and 152 negative. They told me on step 1 to think about the y-intercept. What does the y-intercept represent in this situation? If I don't sleep any hours, what does this thing predict my score is going to be? It's going to be actually a negative score of negative 152. So is that reasonable? Should I change that? I could change that to 0, and that would change the curve. Okay, or I can leave it alone. For now, I'm going to leave it alone. So let me go on to the next step. Document, insert a graph. Now, before you do that, you should have thought of the scores. Look at your y-axis. It's from 0 to 2100. And the sleep, I'm not going to sleep more than what, 12 hours? So let's look at that again. Yeah, 12 hours. So remember our domain and range. Insert graph. And we're going to change the, let's maximize this. I don't need the data anymore. Maximize this to 12. Click on this and click 12. And then press tab. And my maximum score here is going to be 1200. And this is going to be negative 10. And okay, so we looked at this. The data was from 0 to 10 hours, or 5 to 10 hours on the sleep, and 0 to 2100 on the score. So -1 for a space, and for the sleep, we put 12 hours. All right. Okay, so you gotta go to tab or menu 36. The variable was your hours slept. Then press tab, and your variable was your SAT score. Press enter. That gives you the hours slept. SAT score thing. So, looking at the data. Okay, surprising I don't see the data like expected. That's 2100. There you go. And over here, 0 to 12. Okay. In order to, you can't click and drag on your computer, on your calculator, but you can do menu, and then window, and then settings. So that's menu 41, and you can set the settings here, 0 to 12 hours for your sleep, and you can automatically scale it, and your min, they have it at 500, or I could put 400, 2100, 2200 if I like, and there you go. So here it is. Now I can go here and I can run the regression. Menu 41 and 6 if I want quadratic. And here are my choices, right? So let's do the quadratic. And then again, I want to go right click, then down click, then tab, right click, down click till I choose my variable, tab, F1's good. It's okay. There's a regression, as before. There's my values for A, B, and C, like I saw on the show regression page. And you don't have to adjust these spaces. Now I have the ability to go back to the graph, and I can press tab. My scatter plot's showing, so I need to change it to my 36, menu 36. Not 36, menu 31 actually, so I can see the function. You see that F2 is empty because F1 is there. Okay. Press enter at F1 and there it is. Okay, there's my function that I can use to predict, and I can also find the maximum of. So to do that, menu, trace, graph trace. Right now I'm going to the scatter plot. If I go right and then left, it's going to go through my data point list. If I go down, it'll get on the curve, and I can go left and trace it until I think I'm at the peak. Now, if you look at the scatter plot, when I click this, I'll try to find the peak. Where would the peak be? Plot value. Let's say no. Okay, let's come back. Before, I was able to just point at it and here and get a peak. I was able to do it just now. So anyway, back to the graph. So menu, analyze the graph. Maximum is what I want, and you use your arrows to move this back and forth. Here on the keyboard, I can go left of this and right of this, and it shows me the maximums at 8.45. And it's showing like this. If I want to see this number a little bit better, I'd have to go to menu from this page, settings, and I'm read this. Float 3 means that I am showing the 3 significant digits, and fix 3 is 3 decimal places. So if I do that, it's kind of weird. Let's look at it. See, it's this with followed by 3 decimal places, which I just wanted to show you. So 8.4 hours. I can fix it to 1. So let me see, menu fix 1. Settings. Let's fix it to 1 decimal place. Or maybe 0. Maybe that's... Now every time you do one of these changes, yeah. So for 8 hours or so, I predict to get a 1792. Now, it is not exactly right, because if you look at that, you should make it bigger so you can do your own rounding. And let's fix 2. Typically, I just leave it alone. Anyway, so for 8.5 hours, you get a 1791, thereabouts, 1791, 1792. And that's that point there. And there's your function. That's it. Take a screenshot here. Let's print screen this and save it. And that'll prove that I did the scatter plot before I defined my variables. I ran the regression, got my function curve, and then under this regression, this is what I get. You can also add a calculator page where you could ask at F1, what is, I only do 7 hours of sleep, I know I'm nervous. I'm gonna get 6 hours sleep. I predict my score to be 1628. On the other hand, I overslept for 10 hours. My score is at 1726, supposedly. But if I had slept the 8.5, okay, it doesn't like it. I forgot to put the 1. So, careful. Make sure you put a 1 in here. And there you go. There's your maximum score for those hours. And we can add a note to answer that question. Insert a note. Or I can just start typing using my keyboard. I'll just use my computer keyboard. P for the maximum score according to the model and I forgot what the numbers were. I can cut and paste this, I don't know. Oops. Tab up. It's a Control C. Then Control V. Okay. I feel like it's not complete. It's missing something. Go back over here. Doesn't feel like I got it right. Okay, so the maximum score according to the model, the approximate model, model in, oops, let's change that text. And it's starting to where X is the number of hours slept before the night before the test. Model the score and X hours plus the night before the test. Is 1791 with 8.5. Okay, so that's good. Let's save it. Any discrepancies? I don't think so. Okay. That's good. So let's go ahead and save it. Press escape. Do Control S. Escape. Control S. This will be 5.4. Okay. And if you want to, I want to put, actually, escape. Might be a good idea to put my initials. Okay.